Hi guys. So in Parliament on Thursday, Matt Hancock responded to a question, I should say, from Richard Bergen about Serco. And well, this is just a typical example of Tory corruption and how they're not very good at hiding it. So let's hear the question from Richard Bergen and let's hear Matt Hancock's response.
With Richard Bergen. Richard Bergen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Serco is at the heart of an outsourced tracing system that's failing to contact 1/3 of all the close contacts of those with coronavirus. That's clearly helping the virus to spread out of control. So there's widespread public concern that the government is in hock to these giant outsourcing companies. Concerns that Serco and the like aren't just ripping off the public, but they're putting lives in danger. So does the Secretary of State think that the public should be reassured or worried by the fact that Serco's former chief spin doctor is now his Minister for Health?
So that's an interesting allegation. So Richard is saying that somebody who used to work for Serco is now the Minister for Health. Now, it's important to remember that the Secretary for State for Health is Matt Hancock, but the Minister for Health is someone different. But surely that can't be possible. So who is the Minister for Health? Well, the Minister for Health, his name is Edward Argar. Now, this is an article from 2 years ago. It's about problems, to put it mildly, between Serco, the company that Richard Argar used to work for, and how the wheels of the machine are oiled. So it says here, Richard Argar, in the second paragraph, Richard Argar, a former head of the UK and Europe public affairs at Serco, which runs this company. Serco runs five private prisons and a prison escort service, was appointed as Justice Minister. So before he became Health Minister, he was Justice Minister after Philip Lee quit over the government's Brexit policy. Serco has contracts with the Ministry of Justice worth £3.6 billion and is under investigations by the Serious Fraud Office over a former deal with the company related to electronic tagging of offenders. And Richard Bergen actually raised this issue before about how Edward Argar used to work for Serco, and then he got a job in the government as, so he was moved into the ministry, and then the ministry offered a contract to Serco. Now he's in the health department. He's the Minister for Health, and Serco is running the test and trace. Now, it could be completely legitimate, or there could be a problem with this. Sorry, just before Matt Hancock responds, so let's hear what Matt Hancock has to say. Of course, Matt is going to respond to this in an articulate and robust manner.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think he was listening to the debate. Do you? Because I just previously pointed out not only that the national system in the last week has more than doubled the number of contacts.
Okay, it doesn't matter if it doubled. It doesn't matter if it tripled. It doesn't matter if it quadrupled. Is it working? It's not working. That's the problem. It doesn't matter. Look, Matt, if you had said, we're tracing everyone in the country, that doesn't make one bit of difference if the system isn't working, if you're not seeing results. Test and trace has been on the go for a while now, and the pandemic is expanding. The number of new cases is increasing. So there is a problem. Now, why did you hire Serco to do this? Is it because they're the most competent? Was it necessary to hire Serco? Surely the NHS could have done it. Maybe they couldn't do it because they didn't have sufficient funding. So if the NHS couldn't do it because they didn't have sufficient funding, whose fault is that? Could it be this idiot who's on the screen now? Isn't he responsible for the funding of the NHS? Why is all this money, like the £3.6 billion we saw in the other article, that was transferred to this private company for these contracts, and they're incompetent also with that for justice? Why did they receive this contract for test and trace?
that it's reached, more than doubled, and I pay tribute to them for that, that it is the teamwork between the national and the local system that works best.
It's the teamwork. Look, Matt, I've heard corruption called many things, but I've never heard it called teamwork. It's teamwork. So if I'm stopped by the police, it's teamwork if I give him a bribe to let me go. That's teamwork. It's not corruption. It's teamwork. What's happening between the government, who are handing cash over to a company that's incompetent. That's teamwork. It's not corruption. Okay.
And that it is the combination of the large-scale private organisations and the public sector, people working together, that is able to deliver a better service. And I'll tell you this.
I've never heard corruption been defended in this way before. It's cooperation. It's just working together. You know, when the policeman stops me and says, look, I have to give you a fine, I say, look, don't give me a fine, I'll give you some money. That's us working together to get around the problem. The problem is I don't want to pay the fine. The policeman maybe doesn't want to give me the fine, so I give him less than the fine, and then we've gotten around the problem. What's the problem now? You know, the idea that a former employee of Serco is now the health minister, and that Serco is receiving these contracts is it's just a coincidence, okay? There's no corruption involved here, of course.
This, Mr. Speaker, there was a time in the last few days when we had requests from local systems to bring some of the contact tracing back into the national Serco system.
The national Serco system? But Serco is a private company. Anyway, so your justification is the corruption is okay because some people need us to do some work. But maybe Serco need to do the work because you as the health secretary haven't funded the NHS sufficiently over the last number of years. So the NHS is on its knees. It can't do the test and trace because it doesn't have the resources available, because you have decided not to give them the resources. So they have to go to the private company. That's a great way to justify corruption. We've gutted the NHS. Now the NHS have to ask private companies to do it. But don't worry, I have a list of private companies that are acceptable for us.
So that they could help to reach more people. And that sort of teamwork is what I look for, instead of the negative, derisory...
Okay, so look, guys, I want you to be... I don't want to alarm anyone, but, you know, when Matt Hancock eventually leaves his position, when Matt Hancock is fired, probably for incompetence, don't worry. He will not be living under a bridge. He will not be, you know, standing outside a supermarket with a little paper cup asking for some loose change. He will not be, you know, scraping by, living in a one-bedroom apartment, flat, bedsit or whatever. He would be just fine, okay? Don't worry about Matt Hancock. He, I'm sure, will find a good, safe job, maybe as on the board of Serco, maybe after he leaves the House of Commons, you know, once he's finished as an MP and a minister, as a health secretary, he will be okay. Don't worry about that. He will have a new job. He will be a conduit. He will be the conduit where money flows out of government, Tory government obviously, into the boardroom of a company like Serco. Maybe it won't be Serco, it could be KPMG or another private company that will be offering top quality service to the British public. Once again, guys, you know, joking aside, this is corruption. You have a former head of information at Serco, now the Minister for Health. You know, we sort of laugh at this when it takes place in, you know, third world countries. It was, look, how can they, you know, the government be, you know, previously somebody who working in the private sector, and now they're handing over contracts to the private. We laugh at this type of corruption when it's in third world countries or developed nations. The UK is not a developing nation, I should say. The UK is not a developing nation. The UK is a first world country. Allegedly, these types of things don't go on. Let me know in the comments section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?